It's probably the biggest. It's probably the biggest meme in games. Well, besides Pokemon. Pokemon in general is the biggest meme.
Someone today bought Heart Gold, Black 2. Oh, I didn't even come in here. I don't care.
Yeah, that's because they're super undervalued. Like,
yes, but like it's just crazy that like just random people will spend. It was like a $350 like bill, and they're just like, here you go.
Pokemon is cool, but man, people just they are just so in love with it. I looked it up the other day. Do you know what the #1 selling Pokemon game, or I'm sorry, GBA game is? The #1 selling GBA game by far is Pokemon Emerald. It sold 9 million copies. The next closest was Fire Red and Leaf Green, I believe.
Oh wow, like, Emerald's the #1?
It's the #1 selling GBA game. And a loose copy currently goes for well over $200. It sold 9 million units. I get that Pokemon's popular, but it sold 9 million units. Oh, who's that?
Oh.
I've never seen a case of that before, ever. In gaming or in collecting or in retro gaming. I've never, like, look at other games that sold nearly that much. Like, okay, Wii Sports sold, like, what, 100 million copies? But that one maxes out at, like, $20, just because there's so many out there. Or Mario Duck Hunt probably sold 100 million copies, but that game's like $5-10, right? Mario 3 probably sold 10 million copies. It's like $20.
There's just nothing even in the remote ballpark. It's like, the games I can think of would be like Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 3 sold like at least like 1 million or 2 copies because it has a greatest hits version. Right. And that goes for like 200 now, although that might drop once Sparking Zero comes out.
I can see that.
And like something like Def Jam Fight for New York, again, it probably sold a couple million copies because it has a greatest hits version. That goes for like 180. Like, that's it. And like, that is like 1/4 the amount of Emerald.
Like something like Earthbound, no way it sold millions of copies in America.
It flopped.
Chrono Trigger maybe sold a couple million, but back then games didn't sell as many units because less people were gaming, you know, like.
And yeah, rental stores were so prevalent.
Right. Well, that's also true, yeah. 9 million copies sold, and you could literally not find an authentic copy under 200. I think things would be a lot easier if Pokemon fans were just like less against repos. Like, a lot of people I know are like perfectly fine with repos. Like our friend Ryan has a complete NES collection, 100%. Besides World Champion, you know, the meme ones that never actually exist. Like the stuff that was officially released, he has complete collection. And even he's like, yeah, I'll just get a repo like for Stadium events or a repo for whatever. I don't care, you know, who cares? And he's a collector. But Pokemon fans, the second you're like, hey, if you don't want to spend $200 on Emerald, you can just get a repo copy for like $20. They like lose their mind. Like the thought, I understand not wanting to spend $200 on a repo copy. I get that, totally cool. But like, hey, you could spend 1/10 as much on a repo copy that works pretty much the same. It doesn't have the save battery, you know, and they're like not authentic, but it's 1/10 the price, and they're like, no, I'm gonna spend well more than 10 times the price. I need the authentic thing.
And Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald specifically have that running clock that needs that battery, which like the repros can like simulate with flash memory. So like even like the authentic ones are like annoying because they're going to die in like 5 or 10 years, like no matter what. It's like the running clock is why all Gen 2 and Gen 3 games, except for Fire Red and Leaf Green, always die.
Right.
Aww, looks cozy.
Yeah. I guess just interesting factoid for you guys. Obviously, the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance ones use the save batteries. That's pretty well known nowadays. Red, blue, and yellow, those batteries only lose power when you're physically playing the game. So that's why sometimes we'll have copies of Red, Blue, and Yellow come in that the batteries are still good.
It's getting rarer, but like it happens way more often. Like Gen 2 And Gen 3, if you haven't serviced it, are 100%
Absolutely.
always dead.
So Gen 2, here's the interesting thing about that, and Gen 3, like gold, silver, crystal, emerald, ruby, sapphire. The second you start a new game, for the first time with a new battery, the clock continues to run because it has these clock-based events, which means that slowly over time it's draining, even if you're not playing it. Which is why, again, all of those ones constantly run out eventually. And interestingly enough, Fire Red and Leaf Green do not use any batteries at all.
Yeah, 'cause
You
they
do
don't
not
have
have to check for batteries on Fire Red and Leaf Green. They don't use it.
And the weird thing about the Gen 3 games is that Gen 2 has a day and night cycle, but Gen 3 removed that. But the only reason why it has a battery is for like time-based events like berries growing and stuff like that. That's literally
Don't they have like breeding stuff that's like specific to times? I don't know much about Pokemon.
I think that's still its step counter. I might be wrong.
Okay.
I don't want to get the Pokemon fans up in a... But I think it's a step counter.
Yeah.
I think I'm good where I am. I'll see you later.
It's also crazy that obviously GameCube is insanely popular, but it's crazy how Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, and Coliseum are like roughly $200. Because I'm old enough to remember when those games came out, and people did not like them very much.
They're still bad.
I don't know much about them. Like, I know that people, like, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 are not great games. They're a little limited. Although the fact that you can play with the transfer pack, the red, blue, and yellow, is pretty cool in my opinion. But people in general, when Stadium 1 and 2 came out, generally it was pretty positive. Whereas, I remember specifically Coliseum and Gale of Darkness sold not great because people were like, this kind of stinks.
Also, Gale of Darkness came out really late. I think it was like 2004, 2005.
Makes sense, right before the Wii.
And yeah, the GameCube did not... By 2004, especially by 2005, the GameCube was effectively dead.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because that was like only 4 years. For a system that... I mean, go ask any random, like, person who knows games, be like, what do you think of GameCube? And there's like an 80% chance they'll be like, great system, always loved it. And my retort to that would be, did you? Because if you look at the sales numbers, it sold a little less than Xbox. And a lot less than PS2. And a lot of the software titles, like, yes, Smash sold a bunch of copies and Mario Kart sold a bunch of copies. But besides Smash, Mario Kart, and maybe, like, Sunshine, stuff did not sell that well. There's a reason that Nintendo moved on from the GameCube so fast. So, either a bunch of people don't really remember well... Or they're just kind of making it up.
It's definitely one of those retroactively beloved consoles, but like, whenever I bring it up,
it wasn't hated back then.
Whenever
but it
I
wasn't
bring it
super
up,
loved.
people don't believe me. But like, Sunshine was not really well beloved.
Not at all.
And Wind Waker was especially very contentious.
Yes, you either loved it or hated it.
And
but
nowadays, people are like, Wind Waker is the best.
Yep.
It's like, sure now, but back then it did not move GameCubes.
Not at all. Not at all. I always like Sunshine. I always, I know it's probably still an unpopular opinion, but I always prefer Sunshine to Mario 64. I just like Flood.
Sunshine has higher highs, but way lower lows.
I get that, yeah.
I think Sunshine is good if you just do the bare minimum.
I would never collect all the blue coins in Sunshine.
Yeah,
that's
getting
just
100% in Sunshine is a hell nightmare, but
yeah.
Doing the bare minimum, which is doing the first 7 shines in every stage, is like pretty good.
Yeah.
It's everything after that that gets like pretty poor.
I get it. And I know most people would say 64 is better, but the using the Flood, the movement and everything is just really awesome.
But yeah, if I'm playing 64, I'm going for 100% because it's actually fun.
Yeah.
And then Sunshine is like definitely just bare minimum.
I also I like tropical settings and bright colors and nice music, and that's almost all of Sunshine. But yeah, and people didn't hate Sunshine back in the day. I don't want to make it seem like that.
It's just that it was kind of a weird game.
People were like, eh.
And it just didn't have that huge market appeal. It wasn't the first 3D Mario, and like Sunshine is a very complicated game, so it really alienated like the casual like Mario.
That's true. That's true.
Audience too.
Because even finding some of the stages is like tough. Because, like, in Mario 64, for the most part, see painting, jump in painting, right? For the most part. Yeah, there's some secrets to uncover, but those are mostly just secrets. And then Galaxy came out, and that was obviously huge, because the Wii sold 1 billion trillion units, and
Galaxy,
people were just like, we need a video game on this.
Yeah,
Bring out a video game.
Galaxy obviously sold really well because Wii was really popular, but like when you consider it against New Super Mario Bros. Wii, like Galaxy got stomped on. That's a difference between like the super like blue ocean like Mario fans that just want to play Mario Brothers 1 and that's it, versus like Galaxy sold really well, but when you compare it against New Super Mario Brothers, it is just so a brutal mogging. Which I think that's why Nintendo went like full blue ocean for those couple years, and then that ultimately like really backfired on them when they released 3 of those stupid New Super Mario Bros. Games. Like 2 of them came out the same year within 6 months.
Yeah, they definitely made it milked it too much. Yeah. I get it. Like you come out with a good New Super Mario Bros. Game, like that's a game that essentially anyone who plays video games at any level can play at least for a little. Like. Grandma who's never played a game, is she gonna play it? No. But like your dad who's like, remember Mario jumping on the flagpole? He's gonna play that game. But if you're like, hey Dad, here's Mario Galaxy, he's not gonna play that game. It's just not gonna happen. Yeah, I remember. I did not. I did work at GameStop when New Super Mario came out. 09. I only did it during the holiday season, but that was such a freaking big deal. Like, way more than Mario Brothers Wonder, which was also a big deal. But New Super Mario was, like, crazy big deal. And the DS one, I think, sold even more than the Wii one somehow.
They were both crazy, but I think, yeah, possibly the DS one sold more. And that's the risk and reward of chasing the casual audience, because sometimes you can, like, man, Nintendo during the DS and Wii era, they were just making money hand over fist. But then immediately, just because of changing, like, landscapes with, like, smartphones and people just moving on, and, you know, they're just, like, repackaging the same game with, like, slightly better fidelity. It's like, when you compare New Super Mario Bros. And New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS, it's like, what's the difference? Slightly better graphics.
Coins. Yeah.
And those casual audiences are just going to play the first game, and that's it. That's all they care about.
Well, that kind of takes it back to one of the things I originally started with, talking about with COVID, when, you know, companies were like, people will always keep playing. This is only going to be an upward trajectory. There's a reason an audience is casual. It's if there's something new and fun, they'll do it, and then they'll be done with it. There's a reason people always complain nowadays that Wii Sports, we sell it for like $20. I don't want to say everyone does, and by the way, $20 for that is in the market a good deal, in my opinion. And we always sell out of it. But the reason we have to sell it for $20 and not just give it with a Wii is there's a lot of people who want a Wii and the only game they want is Wii Sports because they're very casual about it. And yes, it's good to get the casuals into it, but you can't forget that the people who are keeping your company alive all the time are the hardcores. So you can't just go full-blown casual only, because it doesn't matter what you do, the casual audience is just going to find something new and just do it.
Yeah, and I think Nintendo has hit the perfect middle ground as of right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They do their super big casual, like, Blue Ocean games, but then, like, the Switch launched with Breath of the Wild, which nowadays I have sort of mixed opinions about, but, like, that game is not, like, one of those games that grandma will play. That's for sure. But they nailed it. Like, the Switch was an interesting console. The Breath of the Wild was like a new experience for Zelda, and Breath of the Wild is the best-selling Zelda game by like just the hugest margin, other than Tears of the Kingdom.
Probably millions, if I had to guess.
It's like, you think about Ocarina of Time being a big hit, or like Twilight Princess. Like, everyone talked about Twilight Princess when it was first out, and the Wii was like new and current. but the Breath of the Wild BTFO
I
Twilight
mean,
Princess, but like 3 or 4 to 1.
I'm sorry, we still sell new copies of Breath of the Wild 7 years later. I'm not saying we sell like a copy a day, but whenever I order more Switch games, I'll usually order like a couple copies of Breath of the Wild, and we will sell it, you know? And this is 7 years later.
And Mario Odyssey is like that perfect middle ground of not being as daunting as Sunshine or like as like alienating, but like is still like a pretty deep game and isn't like super duper casual. But like again, they just did that perfect mix of like appealing but deep. And yeah, the Odyssey also sold 1 million billion copies.
If I was in charge of a company and it like suddenly got a super casual audience for whatever it is, I would just like tell everyone, hey, this too shall pass. So let's take this extra money, let's invest it however we need to, let's create, you know, like a treasury fund, let's put it into the new system, but we have to realize that in a couple years or less, this casual audience is going to move on.
And that's the reason why Nintendo really suffered from the transition from the Wii and the DS, like their golden era, to like just the worst era in the company history with the 3DS and the Wii U. Because they just made the same games again. And they just expected everyone just to move over, and they just made the same games again without like really introducing anything new. And the new systems were more expensive, and like they weren't like that special. And they were just expecting people like, oh, get new Super Mario Bros. U, get Wii Fit U, get this and that.
And that's just... That's not going to I mean, at that point, the Wii U came out in 2008. Or, I'm sorry, the Wii came out in 2006, and the Wii U came out in 2013. So that's 7 years later, so it's like... Do you expect the casual audience to still be there for you? I don't think so. And
especially when they weren't even like innovating, they were just doing the same thing again.
Right. Also, the Wii U has what is potentially the worst game that Nintendo has ever made for a first-party platform. Can you guess what I'm thinking of? I mean, I guess there's a couple choices, but there's one specific game that's so lacking with anything that I consider it to potentially be the worst game. It involves Mario, I'll say that. I know Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is an easy one to meme on.
What, that Ultra Smash game?
Mario Tennis. I think that is literally the worst thing they've ever came out.
It's one of the most pathetic games.
It really is. Especially for a franchise that's pretty cool. Like, I like the Mario Tennis games. I really like 64. GameCube's pretty good. I didn't play the Switch one, I don't think.
And I think that game came out in December, which clearly you can see, like, they rushed it out. They had nothing for the holidays.
It is. Man. I remember we played it for a Let's Try, and I was like, this can't be it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
like the gameplay itself isn't bad. I'm not saying it's like a broken mess, but there were like play against each other. I don't even remember the other modes.
There's one that's like a big tennis ball mode. It's like,
that's right.
Would you like to play with a big tennis ball? Would you like to play the mode where you get big? And that's like it.
Yeah, and I was like, this can't be it, right? Like, come on, right? I know that there's some games people don't like. Like, people don't like Mario Party 10 because you're all in the car together. But at least with that, there's like different stuff to do and whatever.
Like, the stuff is not fun, but it has stuff in it.
Mario Tennis, yeah, I think it's called Ultra Smash, is like, oh my god, there is nothing to this game. It blows my mind how little this game has. Although that is, I will say, as a positive to Nintendo, if that's like the worst game I can think of that you released in the last like 15-20 years, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, like, pick any other company, be like, what's the worst game Xbox released? It's like, where do we begin? You know? How much time do you have, kind of thing. Or even PlayStation. There's definitely some where you're like, why did this exist? I saw with the Xbox showcase that they're making, That new Perfect Dark is not vaporware. That's interesting.
It's coming out. Doesn't. I don't know. We live in an era where there's a million billion FPSs everywhere. It's just like.
And the thing that made Perfect Dark so cool is that it was. There was nothing like it. There was nothing that had those futuristic
like,
gadgets and whatever.
It was coming off Rare right after they made the breakout hit of GoldenEye, which like was very influential, and like Perfect Dark was basically the sequel to that. But like, it's like 25 years later. Right. It's like, yep, another Perfect Dark.
I don't,
they already did this with the 360, and no one cared.
I also saw that they're working. Well, this isn't Xbox, but. A new Dragon Age is being worked on, and a new Mass Effect, which surprises me, is being worked on. That's interesting.
BioWare has like made nothing since Anthem, so like,
yeah,
I'm surprised they're even like.
Anthem came out in like what 2018 or 19?
Yeah, it's and like Dragon Age. It used to be called something different. I think it used to be called like Dreadwolf, and it's been in development hell for years now. And I guess they changed the name.
You know the one Xbox game. Over the past like 10 years where I was like, I'd play that, was Scalebound, and they canceled that.
Yeah.
Literally, I was like, I'd play that. That looks cool. I want to play. I have an Xbox One upstairs. The reason I have it is I bought it really cheap at the store because the internet only works wired. It doesn't work wireless. And I was like, you know what? I'll just take this and just use it because I want to play one game, which is Quantum Break, which is an Xbox exclusive. That's made by Remedy. It's like part of the Alan Wake universe. But now that I'll never play Alan Wake 2, I'm like, nah, I don't know if I'll play Quantum Break.
If someone trades in the new physical version, will you still not play it?
I don't think so. I love Alan Wake 1 way too much to like... I know it won Game of the Year from a lot of publications, but also, let me put an infinite amount of quotes. I don't trust, here's my infinite amount of quotation marks, game journalists. I cannot express enough how many infinite times infinite quotes I put under the word journalists. I'm to the point that if a game journalist says that something's a 10 out of 10, I'm like, this probably is not for me. I played Spider-Man 2. I did not like it as much as 1. I'm not going to tell you that I did not like the game. I thought the game was pretty good, but there was a lot of things that really threw me off. I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, but at the end when Peter Parker was like, man, I'm like 23 years old. I have to retire and just spend all my time with Mary Jane. You got this, Miles. I was like, okay. And like Mary Jane, like through many cutscenes, was essentially being like, Peter, I will only be with you if you are literally never Spider-Man again. You can't even do it part-time. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
And the meme of Mary Jane literally, like, she doesn't kill, but, like, incapacitating, like, 100, like, super well-trained
yeah, I saw
people.
I saw the gameplay sections for that, and, like...
I was playing it, I was like, come on!
It's so lame.
Like, I forget, have you played Last of Us? I know it's a meme.
I played one, yeah.
Okay, so, like... I
think Last of Us 1 is a fine game.
I feel like it does the Ellie stuff good, right? Because by the time she's out on her own, they're on the road for like 3 to 6 months, right? And even then, she doesn't go up to like a bunch of people like straight away and is like, I'm gonna just take you straight on. Like she has to like survive a snowstorm to do it and stuff like that, right? And so I think a situation like that, I'm like, this makes sense,
and
right?
she's like forced to do it because Joel gets like super hurt.
But the whole reason Mary Jane gets in that situation is she's like, I'm gonna go get into this situation because Peter dumb, and I'm like, like as a normal person that's not a superhero, I can't imagine being like, hey, do you want to go to this 8-foot tall guy who just killed 1 billion people with his bare hands? Do you want to go into his compound? I'd be like, no. Can I call any of the other superheroes I know?
Yeah, character arcs and plots that revolve around characters going through humiliation rituals is like, I want to just shut off the game.
And the whole reason I bring up that whole Spider-Man 2 thing is from everything I've heard, and I didn't get spoiled on it, but I just have this feeling that it's essentially a humiliation ritual for Alan Wake as a character, and I'm like, not interested in that. And I want to be clear, in Alan Wake 1, he's like not a perfect person or anything like that, right? Like, he's kind of a jerk at times, but he's a good, well-rounded character, and I'm not willing to see him be like, ugh, I can't do it. Will you do it? So to answer your, in the longest form possible, will I play that game? I don't think so. Sorry. I know I'm a chud. I'm sorry. I won't play your game. I just did this like a week or two ago. I now remember this mini boss.
Yeah, this is barely a boss. Like, watch this. I'm gonna do 75% of his health right now.
God dang. I can't wait till I get the Genji thing. I think I'm pretty close. I just got the Proto Relic and Nibelheim, so. This was cool, though. The fact that he essentially puts the entire area of effect of, like, poison everywhere. I thought that was neat. And obviously, I'm not nearly as overpowered as Trevor, so it got a little dicey. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you already did all the Shinra Manor stuff, so
yes.
The next couple bosses, I don't even know if I'm going to get to them today, are
dude,
pretty hard.
The boss with the thing that changes into another thing was so hard.
It's one of the hardest.
Oh my god, I died like 2 or 3 times, which is pretty uncommon in this game. I mean, I've died a couple times, but I definitely died more than any other boss. It was.
He's just unusually like bulky, and he like switches between being like weak to physical and magic.
Yeah.
And like your party's kind of awkward. Like all your members are like good, but like they don't synergize super well. It's like you use Eris by yourself, and it's like, this sucks.
It was enjoyable though.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it, but yeah.
Do I just? I'm stupid.
No. But yeah, to go back to the Xbox thing, they have some interesting games coming in. I never played any of the Fables. It seems people are not very excited for that one. For no particular reason.
It's like Fable's like a franchise of like, it's a mid-franchise. It's like, I played Fable 1, I remember being it, like, it's kind of funny in like a bad way, but like, I wouldn't say that game's good at all. And then I hear that Fable 2 and especially Fable 3 are bad.
Worse. Yeah.
It's like, what? You made the worst of this game that's already not good?
I mean, that's Peter Molyneux, right?
Yeah.
What has he done since
Although I
Fable?
think he's left.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I don't think he was part of Lionhead Studios
at the time.
I might be wrong about that,
yeah.
But I don't think he definitely doesn't have anything to do with the new Fable. I'm not sure about 2 or 3. But yeah, Peter Molyneux is the ultimate hack con man in the video game industry.
He did Black and White, right?
I think so.
That's a game that, I mean, I would never play it, but like, because it's not the type of game for me, but I was like, this game looks interesting.
In the past, he's never been like a super con man, but like, especially the last 20 years, it sure has been.
Yeah. You know what game, this kind of reminds me of Black and White? A game that even I was hyped for. I wasn't going to play it, but I was so excited for it to be good, was Spore. Remember that? Yeah. Spore? That was just the idea. I was like, I've always thought of that exact game. Like, I want to be able to create something from, like, the bacterial level and just have it grow, right? And just, like, make a sim game like that. I was like, this is potentially going to be one of the coolest games ever. And then it obviously was not. And I think it might be one of the games that disappointed people potentially the most. But man, when that was gonna come out, I was like, it's like, I feel like I've had this idea in my head so many times of I just want to see a game like this.
Yeah, and that was especially during the time that EA had like they had a bunch of cool IPs under their belt, but they were just ruining all of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that happens to everything.
Yeah.
No! I think that's 3 times we saw him in like 30 minutes.
I think they do it. Obviously, they do it because it's Sephiroth. Remember Sephiroth? But like, this game is so weirdly designed where I'm doing all the story stuff, like cut to cut to cut to cut. But like, when you're playing this game and doing like the world intel stuff, sometimes you might not like do story for like 5, if not 10 hours. So like, seeing a Sephiroth 3 times in 30 minutes seems ridiculous, but then you consider that maybe someone played for 10 hours and they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially me. Doing all, like, the nibble stuff and whatever, so, yeah, I get it. You know, we talked a lot, not just today, but in general, about, like, there's a lot of things that are, like, troublesome about the game industry right now. But, in my opinion, the biggest, by far, is, not, so I'm going to use it as an umbrella term, mobile games. Not necessarily the fact that mobile games themselves are bad, but it's the simple fact that companies make way more money from mobile games and like, what are the, gacha, what are they called? Like Genshin Impact or whatever?
Yeah.
Gacha. Like, dude, I'm not all about the bottom line, but if someone was like, alright, like, for VII Rebirth, be like, alright, you gotta put, like, $150 million into this game, right? And, like, you might break even though this game, in my opinion, is really good. I have my complaints, but it's really well made, right? And you have a 50% chance you won't break even. Or you can put, like, $1 million into this dumb gacha game, and you're gonna get these whales spending $1,000 every week, and you're just gonna make millions of dollars. What would you choose?
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, like, what would you choose? And like, there's these big companies that I know I've read that some of the Genshin style games or gacha games, they'll put out a gacha game, these smaller studios, and the money they make from the gacha they'll put into making a real game, which is really cool. Although that's obviously few and far between, but like, the fact that it's so easy to make money, and I'm not saying they don't put any money into these games, into these gacha games, but you're putting way less money into Genshin Impact than you are VII Rebirth, and it just prints money. And I just wish these whales could just help themselves and just not.
It really depends on the game, and Square Enix has tried a million mobile games. They even did like a mobile, like, quote-unquote, like, more true remake of FF7, but they made it like a mobile, like, gacha game. So they try a lot to make money on mobile, but it never really works out for them, so I think it goes back to sort of that casual audience thing where I think there's a big risk and a big reward, but, like, if you, like, falter, it can kind of blow up in your face.